Sony has just announced the PlayStation 5 Pro, which has been rumored for a while now, and it was actually leaked recently, the last few days. And this is what it looks like. This is the final design of the console. It's basically a PlayStation 5 Slim with some, I guess, vents or whatever in the middle. It's nothing that's very creative or interesting. The system architect, PlayStation system architect, Mark Cerny, wrapped up his ASMR presentation of the new features, where basically he was just bragging about how the system is going to emphasize graphics and things such as ray tracing, the fidelity of the performance mode, and other details such as, frame rate choices that players will have with the new system. But the main thing here that everyone is talking about is the whopping $700 price point, and we're just talking base MSRP for this new system. And I've never heard of a video game console being anywhere near this expensive. The last time Sony did this was with the PlayStation 3, the first generation version of the PlayStation 3, whose most expensive edition was priced at a whopping $600, which was ridiculous all the way back in 2006. And here we are in 2024, and they think they can get away with this again. And not only is Sony selling this thing for $700, but as the article suggests right here, as it mentions, the console doesn't have a disc drive, and it's going to be $250 more than the base digital version. Now, apparently you can add a disc drive, but it's going to cost you more money. And apparently it also doesn't come with a stand or something. Something I was reading on that particular point. I'm not really sure exactly what the hell Sony is thinking with this particular console. And yeah, here it is. Vertical stand sold separately. And for the value that you're getting, I don't understand why anyone would think it would be a good idea to go and spend $700 on this thing just for a minor graphical boost. And I'm going to go into detail on that. But before I get into that, I want to re-emphasize that Sony thinks it's a good idea to basically rip off their consumer base by selling this thing at $700 base. And it's actually more expensive in other countries and other territories around the world. I can't imagine how expensive this thing is in Canada or Australia. I don't live over there, so I can't speak on that. I live in the States, but even in the States, $700 for a gaming console just doesn't make any sense, no matter which way you cut it. No vertical stand included, no disc drive included. And yes, I understand video games are sold overwhelmingly more digitally than they are physically, but to buy a video game console and not have a disc drive, it limits the options, the ways in which you can play games. And a video game console is already limited in terms of what it can do because it's a closed platform. No matter which console you're talking about, whether it's Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, with the Switch, it doesn't matter. Consoles by default are closed platforms. So buying one of these things without a disc drive just doesn't make much sense. And not only is Sony trying to sell this thing for a ridiculous price, but they've also increased the price of their controllers by $5. That's going to cost upwards of basically $80 when you include the tax for a new controller, which is fucking ridiculous. And even as a PC player myself, I prefer using the DualSense, but I'm sick and tired of spending $80 on a controller when one of these things, the stick drift starts to fuck up. And I believe Sony, they're not really trying to fix the stick drift with these things because, they want you to go out and spend more money on a new controller. Even if you send the controllers in when they start to do the stick drift bullshit, Sony wants you to pay for the shipping to send it to them so they can fix your controller and send it back to you. It's ridiculous. I've never seen anything like it. And people are blaming these price hikes on inflation. I think this goes way beyond inflation. Sony last year also increased the price of their PlayStation Plus subscription models. The annual Essential plan went from $60 to $80, the extra plan went from $100 to $135, and the premium plan went from $120 to $160. That went into effect September the 6th of last year. If I scroll down in the comments here on this recent PlayStation 5 Pro reveal, most of the comment section is filled with people who are complaining about the $700 price point. So, again, I'm really wondering exactly what Sony's intention here is, other than we're going to try and screw you out of your wallet and extract as much money from you as possible. And all of this comes months after the revelation that half of PS4 owners haven't upgraded the PS5, with the latter unit having sold over 59 million units. But again, as I just stated, nearly half of PlayStation users are still on PS4, citing reasons like price and game availability. So again, I mentioned Australia earlier. This person is saying it's going to be 1,000 Australian dollars. I'm really not understanding what the hell Sony is thinking. I honestly don't know why I even bother anymore. This hobby has just gone down the fucking drain. I can't even really name any major new IP that Sony specifically has released that has made the PS5 a worthy investment. Not one. And I'm sure there's going to be that section of shills and fanboys that are going to say, well, what about Astrobot? You know, that just came out, 94 on Metacritic, highest rated game of the year. That's a Sony exclusive, PlayStation 5 exclusive. Gaming critics are calling it one of the best platforming games ever made, a Nintendo-style game for PlayStation owners. Well, my argument to that is Astrobot is nothing to be proud of as a PlayStation 5 owner, as a fan of PlayStation in general, because it's a game that hangs its hat on nostalgia, trying to emphasize all of these different IPs that Sony has abandoned over the years, franchises that they're not going to do anything with, IP that they've straight up abandoned and haven't done anything with in years. Bloodborne is one, Jak and Daxter is another one, Sly Cooper is another one. The list just goes on and on and on. Sony just shut down one of their biggest exclusives of the year after just 2 weeks of a terrible launch, and probably the biggest flop that this industry has seen with Concord. And yet now they want you to be excited and go and buy a new PlayStation 5 for $700 with no disc drive and no vertical stand. That's even more expensive in other territories like Australia, like Canada, all for a minor graphical boost to make already existing games that you've already played look a little better. If this isn't robbery, then I don't know what is. But you can only be ripped off if you let them rip you off. I, for one, will not be buying another PlayStation 5. I barely use the PlayStation 5 I already have. In fact, I rarely use my PS5. It just sits there from day to day, collecting dust. I do use my gaming laptop every day, both of them actually, but specifically for gaming, I just use my MSI Raider every day. I don't need my PS5 for that. I don't need my PS5 for gaming purposes. Again, at this point, these consoles are getting more and more expensive. Why not just go out and buy a PC and be done with it? Sony's putting all of their exclusives on PC anyway, and since they're trying to rip you off with their consoles, with the price and the features, the limited features, with each subsequent version of the PS5 that comes out, you may as well just go out and buy a PC at this point. But anyway, it was a good laugh, I guess, Sony, with this PS5 Pro reveal. It was a good way to kill some time, I guess. But for anyone who's trying to take this seriously and plans to pick up a PS5 Pro, you should just know that you are a part of the problem.